From the sounds on the phone, it appeared that an attack was taking place right then.
Black bear pouncing on a man in an unprovoked attack on his property in Arizona.
Imagine being devoured by the very pet you loved and cared for. It sounds like a nightmare, but for some celebrities, it was a terrifying reality.
After being attacked by a lion, the ordeal was captured on camera.
From massive wildcats to venomous reptiles, these stars kept exotic animals in their homes until things went horribly wrong.
Ming had injured his owner, tipping off authorities to his living arrangements.
In this video, we'll explore the chilling stories of famous people who were tragically eaten by their own pets. These shocking incidents remind us how unpredictable and dangerous wild creatures can be, even when they're raised in a domestic setting.
He's killing my friend!
Who's killing your friend?
My chimpanzee!
Sandra Piovacin and wolves. In 2006, Sandra Piacen's passion for wolves would lead to a deadly encounter that ended her life in a tragic way. Sandra, a 50-year-old woman from Salem Township, Pennsylvania, had spent over a decade living with a pack of hybrid wolves. These wolves, part wild and part domestic dog, were kept in an electrified pen and were treated as part of her family. Sandra, who saw herself as the pack leader, had developed a deep bond with these animals and believed that she could tame their wild instincts. But the wolves, despite their close proximity to humans, remained unpredictable and dangerous. Sandra had been warned by animal welfare officials about the risks of keeping hybrid wolves, animals that were known to be much more volatile than domestic dogs and far more dangerous than wild wolves. Unfortunately, Sandra's belief in her ability to control the pack would prove to be her downfall. One fateful day, while tending to the wolves, something triggered an attack. It was sudden and brutal. Sandra's daughter discovered her body inside the pen, and an autopsy revealed the horrific truth. Sandra had bled to death from severe injuries inflicted by the very animals she had raised. Despite having shown aggressive behavior in the past, the wolves' attack was deemed spontaneous, and the tragedy served as a devastating reminder of the unpredictable nature of hybrid animals. In the aftermath, the surviving wolves were euthanized, a sad and final chapter in Sandra's life. Her death highlighted the dangers of keeping such unpredictable animals as pets, especially animals that are part wild. The case sparked debates about the safety of hybrid animals in private homes and the responsibility of pet owners to understand the true nature of the creatures they choose to keep. Time for something interesting. This photo has recently gone viral on social media, sparking curiosity and chilling parallels to Kellyanne Walls' tragic story. While the woman's identity remains unknown, the haunting image highlights the unpredictable nature of exotic pets. Could this be a cautionary tale about the dangers of keeping wild animals as companions? What's your take on this behavior of pets? Let us know in the comments below. Charla Nash and the chimpanzee. Charla Nash's life was forever changed on February 16, 2009, when she found herself at the center of a nightmare that no one could have predicted. Charla, a compassionate woman from Stamford, Connecticut, had always been close to her friend Sandra Harold, whose pet chimpanzee Travis was more than just a pet. He was a local celebrity. Raised from infancy, Travis had starred in commercials and had even become a well-known figure in the community. But the tragic events that unfolded on that day would shatter the illusion that Travis, despite his fame, was anything but a wild animal at heart.
What's the problem there?
On the day of the attack, Travis, who had previously been calm and affectionate, suddenly became agitated. Charla, who had helped Sandra with daily tasks involving Travis, was called in to try to calm him down. But in an instant, everything went horribly wrong. Mistakenly perceiving Charla as a threat, Travis launched a brutal, unprovoked attack. The strength and ferocity of the chimpanzee were overwhelming. He tore into Charla, ripping off her face and hands with terrifying force. Charla was left with catastrophic, life-altering injuries that would change her life forever. In a desperate attempt to stop the attack, Sandra stabbed Travis, but the damage had already been done. As Travis charged at police officers who had arrived at the scene, they were forced to shoot and kill him to stop the madness. Charla's injuries were so severe that she lost not only her eyes, nose, and lips, but also her hands. The aftermath was incomprehensible. In 2011, Charla underwent a face transplant, a long and painful procedure to help her regain some semblance of her former appearance. But the physical scars were only a part of the trauma. Charla became a vocal advocate for stricter laws surrounding the ownership of exotic pets, particularly dangerous animals like chimpanzees. Her tragic experience served as a stark reminder of how wild animals, no matter how domesticated they seem, can unpredictably turn violent no matter how much care and affection they've been shown. Marius Els and his hippo, Humphrey. Marius Els, a South African farmer, had an extraordinary bond with a creature that no one would expect him to keep as a pet. In 2000, Marius rescued Humphrey, a young hippo, after floods had tragically orphaned him. Over the years, they formed an unexpected and powerful friendship. Humphrey, who weighed in at a staggering 200 kilograms, became a beloved figure in the community. Marius treated Humphrey like a family member, riding him and even allowing him to roam freely on the farm. Their bond was so close that many people in the area marveled at how the two coexisted. But despite the apparent harmony, there was an undeniable danger in keeping such a wild animal close. Experts and concerned neighbors repeatedly warned Marius about the risks of harboring a hippo, an animal known for being one of the most dangerous in Africa. Hippos are responsible for more human deaths than any other large animal on the continent, but Marius remained confident that his deep connection with Humphrey would protect him. He believed that the bond they shared was unbreakable. However, on one fateful November evening in 2011, that bond was shattered. Something inside Humphrey triggered a violent response. Without warning, the massive hippo attacked Marius. With a strength that only a hippo could possess, Humphrey bit and gouged Marius before dragging him into the river. The attack was sudden and brutal, and despite the best efforts of paramedics to save him, Marius succumbed to his injuries. His tragic death sent shockwaves through the community and the world. It raised unsettling questions about the boundaries of the relationship between humans and wild animals, and whether even the deepest bond could overcome the natural instincts of a powerful, untamed creature. Marius's story serves as a chilling reminder of how wild animals, no matter how domesticated they seem, are always unpredictable and dangerous. Terry Vance Garner and his pigs. Terry Vance Garner, a 69-year-old farmer from Oregon, had a deep connection with the animals on his farm, particularly his pigs. Terry was known for his compassionate and protective nature, having raised his animals with care and affection. His bond with them was profound. He had dedicated his life to farming, always putting his animals first. So when he failed to return after a routine visit to feed his pigs, his family grew concerned. What they discovered was nothing short of horrifying. When they went searching for Terry, they found pieces of his body near the pig enclosure. The rest of his body had been consumed by the pigs he had loved and cared for. Authorities speculated that Terry may have had a medical emergency, possibly collapsing from a heart attack or stroke, which made him vulnerable to an attack from the animals. The pigs, once docile and dependable, had turned deadly when they were left hungry and without supervision. Terry's tragic end revealed a dark truth about even the most domesticated animals. Despite his deep affection for his animals and his determination to treat them with kindness, the unpredictability of wild instincts within farm animals could not be ignored. Terry had even chosen not to harm a hog that had previously bitten him, showing just how much he valued the life of every creature on his farm. His death was a heartbreaking reminder that no matter how much we care for animals, the line between tame and wild is often thinner than we realize, and sometimes it is crossed in the most tragic of ways. Sam Mazzola and his bear. In 2010, tragedy struck at Sam Mazzola's exotic animal sanctuary in Ohio. Brent Kandra, a 24-year-old caretaker at the sanctuary, was familiar with the animals he cared for, including a bear named Bart. The bear had become somewhat of a local figure, often seen in wrestling events hosted by Mazzola. Despite the sanctuary's controversial reputation and Mazzola's revoked license for exhibiting exotic animals, Brent had spent years working closely with these wild creatures. But on this fateful day, everything would change. Bart, a large bear who had previously been somewhat tame, was released from his cage for his usual feeding. What should have been a routine task turned into a nightmare. Without any warning, the bear turned aggressive. The familiar animal that Brent had known for so long was no longer the same. Brent was fatally mauled by Bart, leaving the sanctuary and the community reeling from the unexpected violence. Though Sam Mazzola had dealt with various challenges regarding the treatment of his animals, nothing could prepare anyone for the tragic event that unfolded that day. In the aftermath, Bart the bear was euthanized, at the request of Brent's family, in an attempt to prevent further tragedy. The death of Brent Kandra serves as a sobering reminder of how wild animals, regardless of how tame they may appear, can suddenly revert to their instincts in an instant. No amount of familiarity or routine could prevent the attack, and it tragically exposed the dangers of keeping powerful, unpredictable animals in close quarters with humans. DZ20 and the crocodile, Indonesia. In January 2019, Dai Tuo, the head of a pearl farm laboratory in Indonesia, faced a horrific fate when she was killed by her pet crocodile Mary. Dai had raised the 4.4-meter-long crocodile, feeding and interacting with it regularly, and had grown accustomed to the reptile's presence. However, what transpired that day was unimaginable. As Dai attempted to feed Mary, something went terribly wrong. It's unclear whether Dai fell into the enclosure accidentally or if Mary, with a sudden burst of strength, pulled her into the water. What is known, however, is that the crocodile's instincts took over. Crocodiles are known for their immense power, particularly their tails, which can deliver crushing blows. Mary's attack on Dai was swift and brutal. By the time Dai's colleagues discovered her, the crocodile had already partially consumed her body, including one of her hands and most of her abdomen. The scene was grisly, with the remains of Dai a horrifying testament to the crocodile's overwhelming power. Authorities were immediately alerted, and a large-scale operation involving police, army personnel, and wildlife officials was launched to remove the crocodile from the enclosure. After a tense operation, Mary was tranquilized and transported to a rescue center. The incident sparked serious concerns about the safety and ethics of keeping such a dangerous and powerful animal in a domestic setting. It highlighted the urgent need for better regulation and oversight in the ownership of large, wild creatures that possess the potential to turn deadly in a split second. Marvin Hajos and his cassowary. In 2019, a tragic and shocking event took place when 75-year-old Marvin Hajos was killed by his pet cassowary, a massive and powerful bird native to Australia and New Guinea. Marvin had spent years breeding these majestic yet dangerous creatures on his private property, fascinated by their strength and beauty. But despite his experience with them, the unpredictable nature of the cassowary would lead to an unimaginable fate. Cassowaries are known for their aggressive tendencies, particularly when they feel threatened. Standing at an imposing 6 feet tall and weighing up to 130 pounds, these flightless birds are equipped with long, muscular legs and razor-sharp claws that can inflict fatal injuries with terrifying precision. They are often considered the most dangerous birds in the world, capable of attacking with a single swift strike. On the day of the incident, it's believed that Marvin accidentally fell near the bird, which then launched a brutal attack. Though reports suggest the attack wasn't intentional, the power of the cassowary's strike proved fatal. Marvin sustained devastating injuries, and despite efforts to save him, he did not survive. While attacks by cassowaries on humans are rare, when they do happen, the consequences are often tragic. Marvin's death served as a stark reminder of the unpredictable risks involved in owning such powerful and dangerous exotic animals. His story highlighted the dangers of keeping potentially lethal birds as pets, shedding light on the fine line between admiration and danger when interacting with wild creatures. Pam Weaver and her camel. In 2007, an Australian woman named Pam Weaver experienced a devastating tragedy involving a gift meant to bring her joy, a camel. The camel had been a birthday present, something Pam had eagerly welcomed as she had a deep love for animals. Pam, a resident of New South Wales, was no stranger to the care of large animals. She had become familiar with the camel, spending time with it and bonding over the course of several months. But despite the bond they shared, the camel's unpredictable nature would soon prove fatal. One fateful day, while Pam was outside tending to the camel, something snapped in the animal. The camel, which had been calm and gentle in the past, suddenly turned aggressive. It knocked Pam to the ground, and in an instant, she was pinned under its massive weight. Camels, like many large animals, carry an unpredictable streak. Despite being raised and cared for in captivity, they are still wild animals at heart, capable of unpredictable behavior at any time. Pam's family rushed her to the hospital, but tragically, the injuries she sustained were too severe, and she passed away shortly afterward. The exact cause of the camel's aggression remains unknown, but it serves as a stark reminder that even the most domesticated animals can harbor wild instincts that, when triggered, can turn deadly. Pam's tragic death is a heartbreaking example of how wild animals, no matter how familiar they may seem, can be dangerous, especially when their behavior shifts without warning. Andre Lumboga and his dogs. In a haunting and chilling tragedy in Indonesia, Andre Lumboga, a man from Susi, became the victim of his own neglect. While on a holiday, Andre left his 7 pet dogs locked inside his home for 2 weeks without food or water. The dogs, left in a desperate state of starvation, were unable to survive without sustenance. When Andre returned home, he was greeted with an unimaginable sight. The dogs, driven by hunger and desperation, attacked Andre, eventually killing him. Afterward, they consumed his body, leaving behind only his skull as evidence of the horrific scene. The discovery of Andre's remains was made when a neighborhood guard noticed an unusual sight: abandoned luggage outside his house, accompanied by a foul, unmistakable odor emanating from inside. Upon investigating, the guard called the police, who discovered the gruesome scene inside the house. The dogs, in their state of desperation, had not only attacked Andre, but had also killed 2 other dogs during the 2 weeks they were left alone. The sheer horror of the situation was compounded by the fact that, in Andre's cultural background, dog meat is commonly consumed. Ironically, it was the very animals he had kept as pets that would ultimately end his life. This tragic and horrifying event serves as a chilling reminder of the dangers of neglecting animals, especially when those animals, in their hunger and desperation, may turn against their owners. The incident shed light on the heartbreaking consequences of neglect, offering a stark lesson in the responsibility of caring for any animal, no matter the species. Engya Muhammad and his pet monkey, Malaysia. In Malaysia, the practice of training monkeys to retrieve coconuts is a long-standing tradition, as these animals are known for their exceptional tree-climbing abilities. Engya Muhammad, a 72-year-old man, had trained his pet monkey to perform this task, hoping to harness its natural talents. However, things took a deadly turn when the monkey, which Nar had raised and cared for some time, suddenly attacked him instead of fetching coconuts. The attack was swift and brutal. The monkey, in a shocking display of aggression, bit into Nar's wrist, causing severe damage. The bite tore through a major artery, and Nar began to bleed heavily. Despite the intense pain, Nar was unable to defend himself, and the situation quickly escalated. When his son Zachariah arrived at the scene, he found his father unconscious and bloodied. Tragically, the monkey did not stop there. In a horrifying twist, it turned on Zachariah, biting him viciously on the neck before fleeing into the jungle. Neighbors, hearing the commotion, rushed to help, but the monkey had already disappeared into the wild, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable horror. Authorities responded swiftly, launching a manhunt to track down the aggressive monkey. Once located, the monkey was tranquilized, but due to its unpredictable and violent behavior, it was likely destroyed. The incident highlighted the danger of keeping wild or semi-wild animals as pets and the potential for even the most familiar creatures to become deadly. Pet snake kills child. In 2009, a heart-wrenching tragedy unfolded in Florida that would haunt a family forever. A 2-year-old girl named Cheyana Hare became the victim of a terrifying attack by her family's pet Burmese python, Gypsy. The snake, which had been living in the family's home for some time, managed to escape from its poorly secured enclosure. In the dead of night, while Cheyana slept soundly in her crib, Gypsy slithered silently into her room and launched a deadly attack. Burmese pythons, native to Southeast Asia, are known for their immense strength and constriction abilities, using these attributes to overpower and kill their prey. Tragically, the snake wrapped around the innocent child, suffocating her before authorities could arrive. When the police discovered Cheyana's lifeless body, the horrifying marks of the snake's attack were visible on her small body. Gypsy had been a pet in the family for years, owned by Jiren Hare and her boyfriend Charles Darnell. Despite multiple warnings about the dangers of keeping such a powerful and potentially deadly snake, the couple had ignored the risks. They admitted that they had known about Gypsy's previous attempts to escape, but failed to take the necessary precautions to secure her enclosure. This tragedy sparked widespread concern over the safety of keeping exotic animals as pets, especially in households with children. It led to an outcry from the public, calling for stricter regulations on exotic pet ownership and the importance of making enclosures for such dangerous animals truly escape-proof. This devastating incident served as a chilling reminder of the immense responsibility that comes with owning exotic pets, and the potential risks of keeping animals that are powerful and unpredictable. Paul McDonald and his pet deer, Australia. In 2019, Paul McDonald, an Australian farmer, met a tragic fate at the hands of one of his own animals, a hybrid deer elk, known as a wapiti. Paul had raised the animal on his farm for years, and it had always been docile, forming a close bond with him. But during the mating season, the animal underwent a drastic shift in behavior. As the testosterone levels surged in the male wapiti, it became unpredictable and aggressive, a transformation that Paul, in his familiarity with the animal, did not anticipate. On that fateful day, Paul approached the wapiti to feed it, unaware of the imminent danger. The animal, now driven by primal instincts, suddenly attacked. In a flurry of powerful strikes, Paul was caught off guard, suffering severe injuries. His wife and son rushed to help, but the animal's aggression was uncontrollable. Despite their efforts, Paul was fatally injured, and although paramedics arrived on the scene quickly, they were unable to save him. The animal, still in its violent state, was shot to prevent any further harm. Paul's wife, gravely injured in the attack, survived after undergoing several surgeries, but the loss of Paul left a lasting scar on the family. The incident served as a stark reminder of how even the most familiar and seemingly tame animals can become deadly when their instincts are triggered. It also brought attention to the hidden risks of keeping wild hybrids as pets, particularly during sensitive times like mating season. Mark Vogel and his exotic pets, Germany. Mark Vogel, a 30-year-old man from Dortmund, Germany, was known for his fascination with exotic animals, keeping an extensive collection that included over 200 spiders, reptiles, and other rare creatures. His apartment was a living menagerie, home to venomous spiders like black widows and other dangerous reptiles. Vogel enjoyed handling his pets, even the more venomous ones, and was fully immersed in his passion for the exotic. But in early 2004, his obsession would tragically lead to his death. One of his black widow spiders bit him, injecting venom into his body. Coupled with other complications from his interaction with the venomous creatures in his apartment, this bite turned fatal. When police arrived, they found Vogel's body surrounded by his pets, some of which were feeding on his remains. The gruesome scene was even more chilling when officers reportedly discovered spiders crawling out of his nose and mouth. The bizarre and unsettling death of Mark Vogel serves as a terrifying warning about the dangers of handling venomous creatures and the risks associated with keeping dangerous exotic animals in a confined space. Kellyanne Walls and her black bear. In 2009, the unthinkable happened when Kellyanne Waltz's life was tragically taken by her pet black bear Teddy in Pennsylvania. Teddy had been a part of the Waltz family for years. Since he was a cub, Kellyanne's husband, a man with a deep passion for exotic animals, had raised him with care. Over time, the bear became a central part of their lives, living in their home like a beloved pet. Kellyanne and her family had always treated Teddy as one of their own, feeding him, playing with him, and caring for him. But as with many stories involving exotic animals, there was always an underlying danger. Wild instincts are never completely erased, no matter how much affection is shown. On that fateful day, while Kelly was cleaning Teddy's cage, something went terribly wrong. Teddy, who had always been docile and affectionate toward her, suddenly became aggressive. No one knows exactly what triggered the attack, whether it was a change in his environment or a random burst of wild instinct, but the result was devastating. In the blink of an eye, Teddy turned on Kelly, overpowering her with his immense strength. Weighing around 400 pounds, Teddy was no match for Kelly, and despite the desperate efforts of emergency responders to save her, Kelly's injuries were too severe. Her family, especially her husband, who had raised Teddy from such a young age, was left in shock and disbelief. This tragic event not only shattered the Walls family, but also sparked fierce debates around the safety of keeping wild animals as pets. No matter how long one spends with an exotic animal, the risk remains that their natural instincts can take over in an instant, turning a once friendly creature into a deadly force. Ronald Huff and his monitor lizards, Delaware, USA. In 2002, the world was shocked by the tragic death of Ronald Huff, a passionate reptile enthusiast from Delaware. Huff, a man deeply fascinated by exotic animals, had dedicated much of his life to raising and caring for a variety of reptiles, including several monitor lizards. These large, formidable creatures, while not inherently aggressive, can be unpredictable, particularly when they feel cornered or threatened. Known for their impressive size and strength, monitor lizards can be dangerous when provoked, even by their owners. On the fateful day of the attack, Ronald's wife discovered him in a severely injured state. Authorities later speculated that a feeding session or a sudden altercation might have triggered the deadly event. The confined space of Huff's reptile enclosure likely exacerbated the danger, as the monitor lizards, feeling stressed or threatened, lashed out. Despite their typically calm nature, these reptiles are wild animals with natural instincts that can lead to aggressive behavior in certain situations. Ronald's tragic death served as a stark reminder of the risks of owning such powerful, unpredictable creatures without taking the necessary precautions. It highlighted the importance of respecting the boundaries of wild animals, no matter how domesticated they may seem. Cynthia Lee Gamble and her tiger. We have the story of a big cat that would ultimately become the source of tragedy for a woman who had spent years working with them. Cynthia Lee Gamble, a devoted animal lover from Minnesota, had been handling tigers for over 10 years. Her experience and deep understanding of these majestic creatures earned her respect in the animal community. Gamble was not just a passionate caretaker, she became a recognizable figure, with her trained Bengal tigers even making appearances on prominent shows like The Today Show and in major motion pictures. However, in 2006, a fateful visit from a friend would reveal the devastating consequences of trusting such powerful animals. When the friend arrived at her home, they discovered something horrifying: Cynthia's lifeless body inside one of the tiger enclosures. The cause of death was clear: one of her Bengal tigers had attacked her. It's believed that the enclosure doors had been left open, which allowed the tiger to strike without warning. In an instant, Cynthia was defenseless against the creature she had spent years working with and loving. The attack shook the entire community, especially those who knew Cynthia's dedication to these animals. For a woman who had made a career out of caring for tigers, it was almost unimaginable that one of them could turn on her. This devastating loss was made even worse by the fact that Cynthia left behind her 14-year-old son, who would now have to live with the grief of losing his mother in such a tragic way. Cynthia's death serves as a somber reminder of the unpredictable nature of wild animals, even when they are trained and seemingly well-behaved. Herbert Walden and the cats. We have a surprisingly sinister story at this point involving the most ordinary of animals, the domestic cat. While cats are often seen as cute and harmless companions, this chilling tale reveals the darker side of these seemingly innocent creatures. Herbert Walden, a 74-year-old man, and his 94-year-old mother, Jane, were discovered dead in their home, having passed away roughly a week earlier. Herbert had died from a heart attack, and his mother, Jane, succumbed to dehydration after being unable to care for herself following his death. The state of their home was shocking. No running water, no working toilet, and piles of garbage everywhere. Yet, what was even more disturbing was what was found inside the house. Authorities discovered 4 dead cats, a dead dog, and 12 hungry cats that were still very much alive. These cats, in their desperate hunger, had turned to a horrifying means of survival. They had begun eating the feet of their deceased owners. The sight of this gruesome scene must have been truly unsettling, as the line between wild animal instincts and domestic pets blurred in a way no one could have anticipated. While the cats didn't attack their owners while they were alive, their desperate need for sustenance led them to a shocking act of survival. This tragic tale paints a haunting picture of the realities of neglect and the dark instincts that can emerge when animals are left to fend for themselves in extreme circumstances. It serves as a reminder of how quickly things can spiral out of control in the absence of care and attention no matter how domesticated the animal may seem. Wildebeest attack in Germany. Wildebeests are notoriously aggressive animals, known for their unpredictable nature. Unfortunately, one man learned this the hard way when he tried to tame a wildebeest and keep it as a pet. Klaus Dieter Random, an animal lover who already owned several exotic creatures, decided to add a wildebeest to his collection. While he had grown accustomed to the animal's occasional bursts of excitement, he never expected the wildebeest to turn on him. One fateful morning, Klaus stepped into the barnyard as usual to serve breakfast to his beloved wildebeest. He had no reason to suspect anything was out of the ordinary. However, by noon, his wife grew concerned when Klaus hadn't returned. She went outside to check on him and was horrified by what she found. Klaus was lying on the ground, severely injured and unresponsive. Despite the frantic efforts of emergency services, Klaus tragically couldn't survive the brutal trauma. An investigation revealed that Klaus had inadvertently provoked the wildebeest. During mating season, male wildebeests can become especially aggressive. This heightened aggression likely led the animal to attack Klaus when it felt threatened. The tragic event serves as a stark reminder of how dangerous and unpredictable wild animals can be, even when they appear tame. Klaus's story highlights the extreme risks of keeping such powerful creatures in a domestic setting and the brutal consequences of underestimating their wild instincts. Mountain lion incident. Mountain lions are some of the most powerful and terrifying creatures in the wild. With their muscular bodies and stealthy nature, they are not animals that should be kept as pets. But Amber Michelle Couch from Texas was one of the few people who chose to defy logic and keep a mountain lion in her home. While it may seem unthinkable to many, Texas law actually permits keeping a mountain lion as a pet, if the owner has the proper certification. This certification comes with the responsibility of ensuring the animal's health, including keeping its vaccinations and checkups up to date. Sadly, Amber ignored these crucial guidelines. Despite repeated warnings from friends and authorities, she failed to keep her mountain lion's vaccinations current. She also kept the animal in a small, cramped cage where it often felt agitated. This neglect of the lion's needs created the perfect storm for disaster. One day, Amber's young nephew ventured too close to the cage, and in a split second, the mountain lion attacked. It slashed his face, leaving deep, painful wounds. Miraculously, the young boy survived, though he had to spend several weeks in the hospital recovering from the attack. The incident served as a wake-up call for authorities, who swiftly moved to confiscate the mountain lion. Amber faced a series of citations for her lack of care, including one that prohibited her from owning pets that weren't given the proper attention. Tragically, the mountain lion was euthanized to prevent further harm. This heartbreaking incident is a reminder of the severe dangers of keeping wild animals as pets, no matter how domesticated they may seem. What a terrifying reminder of the risks of keeping wild animals as pets. These celebrities paid the ultimate price for their love of exotic creatures. It's a stark lesson about respecting nature's power and the dangers lurking behind the wild. If you found these stories shocking, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more chilling tales. And remember, sometimes the biggest danger comes from the ones we least expect. Stay safe and always respect the wild.